Hey, what's up, guys? So time under tension has been on my mind as of late because I keep seeing stuff about it. There's a lot of advice out there that says time under tension builds muscle, longer sets, make it burn. But here's the issue. Time alone doesn't necessarily induce muscle hypertrophy. You can extend a set without increasing significant tension on the muscle fibers. So the question isn't how long is the set? The question is what's happening to the muscle fibers during that set. So not all reps are created equal, and some reps under tension are honestly kind of irrelevant. So in this video, I'm going to show you what actually matters for building muscle. Now here's the reality, guys. When it comes to building muscle, most of your set is about getting to the growth reps, which are right here if failure is number 10, rep number 10. So if failure is rep 10, you're looking at around rep 5 to 10-ish for those growth reps. The preceding reps, they kind of don't matter. They matter somewhat, but the latter reps are more important. Okay? Really, the reason why the preceding reps are important is to get to the latter reps. So that is their importance, really. The real stimulus that we're looking for, it's the last few reps to muscular failure. This is what we call stimulus reps. It's these reps that will stimulate the most hypertrophy because they are the slowest in velocity. And this means that they will be the highest effort repetitions. Now keep in mind, these reps, they're not controlled slow reps. They are forced slow reps. That distinction matters because that's when the muscle is actually being challenged, okay? Now the goal is to drive enough internal mechanical tension through heavier loads with stimulus reps, okay? And so we do that through progressive load and intensity of effort. So the volume that we need are the reps that causes the muscles to actually grow. All other volume, like the reps, they have minor contributions to muscle growth. Like I had mentioned, the preceding reps, they are significant in that we need them to get to the latter reps. Now we need to get to the end of each set. It's very, very important because then both low threshold and high threshold motor units are recruited, and this will fire the fibers within those motor units. Now once those fibers are turned on, we want those fibers to generate high forces. Now just because a motor unit is firing and the fibers within the motor unit are contracting, it doesn't mean they are firing with high force. So activation and force, they're not the same thing. Motor unit recruitment tells you who's working. Force production tells you how hard they're actually working, okay? So in order for those fibers to experience high forces, the ones that we do recruit, we need to get close to muscular failure or reach muscular failure, okay? Basically, that's the point where the rep speed involuntarily slows down during the positive contraction, the concentric. So not the negative, the positive. It has to be forced to slow down. Okay, so again, this is not restricting your speed intentionally. So you are essentially forced to slow down. Now, there is a relationship between force and velocity. The faster a muscle contracts, okay, the faster it contracts, the less force it can produce. The slower a muscle contracts, the more force it can produce. Now, this is because force depends on actin and myosin cross bridge formation. If contraction is too fast, the cross bridges can't ratchet effectively, basically, and muscle force just drops off. But when velocity slows down involuntarily, the muscle generates high forces, okay, well, the fibers. And when this happens, those fibers, the ones that were activated within the motor units, right, they experience high internal mechanical tension. And this is why velocity under tension matters for muscle growth. But again, I want to be very, very clear about this. Those reps must be slow because you are approaching muscular failure. So volitional restricted speeds at the beginning don't count. Okay, like what you might see in a super slow set. That's very extreme, like a 10, 10, 10 positive, 10 negative. But some people within HIIT typically will replicate that with maybe like a 5, 5. Okay, so those are volitionally restricted speeds. Okay, so that doesn't count. At the beginning, those reps, the fibers will not experience high tension just because you intentionally slow the reps down. They have to be forced to slow down. Okay. And FYI, guys, the slower your reps are, so if you do some kind of HIIT protocol or super slow protocol, it's harder to identify where true failure is. So if you start out slow, because whenever you go to failure, your reps slow down. You can grind them. So if you're already going that slow intentionally at the beginning, and then you go towards the end of the set, which that's the fatigue model that I've spoken about, which is great. I like it. It just becomes harder to identify where true failure is. Okay, so there is utility in doing that depending on some factors, and I've made videos on this before. But just know that if you intentionally slow reps down from rep 1 to rep 10, and then you have this strong burn coming on, it's kind of hard to identify where true failure is because the burn might be so great that you might think that's failure, but you're not sure because you can't identify the slowdown in the repetition speed. Because it was the same from rep 1 as it is to rep 8, but you might be able to get to rep 11. But at rep 8, the burn is so strong that you might think, I can't do any more. So it's hard to identify where true failure is, even proximal failure, if you intentionally slow reps down from rep 1 to the end. So if you're trying to really base your sets off of this, right, you might want to speed up a little bit. Not don't IFBB pro your reps or CrossFit your reps. It's not what I'm saying, but have a normal repetition speed, and then as you get close to failure, those reps will slow down, and then that's where you kind of need to be, okay? So you can identify it easier with normal rep speed all the way to the end versus intentionally slowing down your reps at the beginning. So to be very clear, slow velocity under tension, and this right here, velocity under tension, is something that I introduced in my last paper as a very important concept to muscle growth. And I called it VUT, velocity under tension. I really should have called it SVUT, so slow velocity under tension. But again, it's not about slowing reps down on purpose. This is very, very important to understand. And I feel like this is where I've seen in the past some of the HIIT guys get the force velocity curve kind of not quite understanding muscle physiology. Because this is not about slowing your reps down on purpose. This is about your reps being forced to slow down. And that is where the tension is highest. So as you approach failure, true muscular failure, rep speed decreases involuntarily, force demands increase, and mechanical tension also increases, okay? Those last reps produce the highest tension per fiber. That's where the stimulus is. Not because, a set is arbitrarily longer time under tension, right? So that's what we see with this. It's just, longer time under tension. So it's not about just having some longer tension time. We need it to be significant, okay? So the stimulus is towards the end where the reps slow down. But again, not because of the tension time, but because the set is harder. And that's the ticket. So time under tension assumes more time equals more growth, but it's not always true. Again, you can use lighter weights, voluntarily move slower, and increase your time, and still not generate high force. So again, going back to the super slow example, or the fatigue model example, you can start off slower. You can increase your time under tension because you're going like maybe 5.5, and you get close-ish to failure. Maybe you have like 6 more reps, right? But you're not even sure because the rep speed's the same from rep 1 as it is to rep 10, rep 12, rep 13. So you're not even sure where that failure point is unless you're advanced and you've done this for a while. But you're not even sure where that failure point is. But let's say you just stop and you had like 5 more reps, but the burn is so great because you're going slow, you're accumulating fatigue, you're not going to generate high force. So even though the repetition speed was slower from rep 1 to rep 7, but you stopped at 7, but maybe you could have went all the way to 13, the burn was so great at rep 7, but you're not sure, and you're like, that's got to be failure, and you stop. But it was a long time under tension, 5.5 for rep 1, 5.5 for rep 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it was a long time under tension. That doesn't mean it's going to generate high force because you never got to the end, the true end of failure, or very close to that failure point. So the time under tension, it can be high, right? But you could have low tension, which means low stimulus. So time under tension only measures duration. It ignores intensity of effort and force output. That's the problem. So here's a better model for growth, okay? basically this is what you need to do. High effort. Work hard in each set. Okay. If you do this, and again, what I mean, right, is getting to muscular failure or very close to muscular failure. And if you have normal repetition speeds from the beginning and you're not using like a super slow protocol, but again, I like that fatigue model. It depends. There's a time and place for it, for sure. But you have to be very much aware of where your failure point is. So high effort in trying to find that failure point, you start off with normal repetition speed until it slows down. Now you're very close to the end, okay? So if you do this, you will reduce repetition speed. As a result, fibers will experience high forces, which means high internal mechanical tension. So you need high effort that either hits muscular failure or gets very close, okay? So this will recruit all the motor units in that region of the muscle. You're not going to recruit all of them, depending on lots of different factors. This will signal fibers to produce high forces, and it will maximize mechanical tension, which is the goal of what we're trying to do, because that is what induces muscle hypertrophy. So the goal isn't necessarily more reps and longer sets, it's more stimulus reps. The ones where velocity drops, force peaks, and growth is triggered. All right, guys, so if you need help with this, top link in the description, Natty Aesthetics program. It takes you to my community, okay? I have tons of programs in there. We have coaching calls. Come hang out. Let's get jacked.